Chair, we are now live.
Okay, good evening everybody, and a very warm welcome to those attending the petition hearing for the Cabinet Member for Planning, Housing and Economic Growth, and to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Steve Tuckwell, and I am the Cabinet Member for Planning, Housing and Economic Growth. Details of the business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible online underneath the live broadcast. For those present in the room and intending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statements you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be audible online if the microphone is switched on and you have a little red light next to your microphone. In terms of fire alarms or emergency evacuations this evening, we are not expecting any, but if the alarm does go off, then I ask that you please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building onto the designated meeting points which are outside. For mobile devices and tablets, for those in the room, could I ask that you switch off any mobile devices before the meeting starts or put them onto silent, although myself and officers will be using our tablets and laptops to look at the agenda paperwork. Meeting feedback. This is important that we get feedback, and you'll see on your chairs there's some yellow forms, and for those that are watching online there is a link underneath the live broadcast where you can leave some feedback. So that's the preamble for today's meeting. I'll just do some introductions. I've obviously introduced myself, but the gentleman to my right here is David Knowles. He is one of our senior officers, Head of Transportation, so he'll be supporting me this evening on some of the technical aspects in relation to the points that you're going to bring forward. And I have Naveed Ali sitting here on my left. He's from the Democratic Services team, making sure that we are doing everything in line with our constitutional responsibility. So Naveed's a very important person who's going to make sure that we all follow the correct processes. Okay, that's introductions done. We can now get on to the main agenda. So the main agenda is declarations of interest of matters coming before this evening, agenda item 1. Don't think we've got any declarations. Agenda item 2 this evening is to confirm that business this evening will take place in public. So it is on YouTube and we're here, this is a public meeting. There are no private elements to tonight's proceedings. Agenda item 3 is to consider the report of officers following the petition, so you will have seen that on for the agenda. So again, that's the first 3 agenda items out of the way, which brings us to the main show this evening, which is agenda item 4, Edinburgh Drive. And I can see we have 2 petitions in front of us this evening, so we're going to hear those together. The first one is to request a one-way system and traffic calming measures for Edinburgh Drive, and the second petition, I understand it, was for speed bumps in Edinburgh Drive. Okay, so we're going to go on to agenda item 4 now. You can also see we have a ward councillor in the audience who will be, no doubt, speaking on behalf of residents a bit later on. So I have Tina and Owen. Is that correct? Okay, if you'd like to come to the chairs here, and when you're settled I'll just explain to you the next part of the process. Okay, all settled? Good. So what will happen now is when we're ready to go, you will get 5 minutes to present your petition to myself and David as our technical lead officer for transportation. You'll see here there's a traffic light system in front of us, so don't be too put off by that, but when you're on green you're on 4 minutes. When you go to amber it's between 4 and 5, and when it gets to 5 minutes I will bring you to a very polite stop. Okay, that's between you. That's between you. Yeah. So it's not personal, but it is actually in our constitution that speakers get 5 minutes. Councillors actually get a little less; they get 3 minutes, so they have to talk quicker. But it's over to you. When you're ready, if you can press the little button on the microphone there, and that's when your 5 minutes will start. And then we will ask you some questions afterwards as well. So again, a little tip: if there's anything you think you've missed, you get the opportunity, maybe in answering questions, to throw in your points. So there's a little hint for you there. Okay. So when you're ready, you can press the button and we're good to go.
Yeah, okay, so our main scenario, I think we've spoken as residents of Edinburgh Drive, although our petition that we started as a household was regards to speed bumps. I think in general traffic calming measures is a great starting point or a target. We fear that there is an element of risk of life to the residents of Edinburgh Drive due to fast-moving traffic from the Doway Martyrs End towards the Glebe Estate end, or Glebe Avenue end. And we feel like something needs to be done before we lose a life of either a young person on the road or a resident of the road of some sort. Yeah, that would be what I'd start with.
What I wanted to say was that we already lost somebody close by to us on Glebe Avenue. We just want to make sure that it doesn't happen again, because there's a blind spot both sides, going towards Down Martin as well as going towards Glebe shops. So that causes a really horrendous traffic, and people are quite violently, and they are very rude, abrupt when they come from the Down Martin side. And we've seen cars driving on the curve, where the foot curve is, for them to able to drive across. So they have to literally cut across. Just basically, really, there has been accidents as well there, 2 or 3, before somebody passes away. And people do drive really, really fast on that road. There's no speed bumps. There's nothing there to protect anybody. And there are children there. People got dog walkers there. There's so much going on, and nobody is there to... Yeah, and school. School is a main thing as well. And parents are driving, leaving their cars where they are. But the problem we have is they come from Long Lane, they cut through to go to Glebe Avenue. That's where the problem is. So that is taken as a cut-through route, and we want something done on that road. I suggested a one-way system purely to protect everybody and nobody gets hurt. The speed bumps will calm the system down. There's something has to be done immediately before somebody gets really hurt.
I'll just jump in on I know there was a previous traffic assessment completed on the road, and I remember reading something about the higher percentile not being fast enough. But I think all residents agree that it will only take one bad decision from a driver that's trying to cut through traffic. Clearly not a resident, someone who doesn't understand the road. Maybe it's the first time they've cut through that traffic to cause serious harm, and then all of a sudden we feel like we haven't stopped it quick enough, and obviously someone's going to get seriously hurt as a result.
I mean, some of us been there for 20 years, some have been for 30 years. I mean, we've seen... It was very calm at one point, but now it's gone worse and worse. So we urge the council to do something about this quickly and swiftly as possible. You're welcome to come during that time to have a look what's happening. I'm sure you've done your scanning, whatever, but it needs to be done now. And plus the one-way system you put on Glebe Avenue itself with the slip road one, you've got a black bag on it, but it's not been implemented. It's a one-way system. On the service road, yeah, you've got black bag on it, and nobody knows whether it's still a one-way system or which way system it is. No, we just want our residents protected. We just want people to be safe. There are many people on the road now. A lot of people have got cars. We just want protection. That's what we want.
Yeah, and I think obviously the council will know, but there was a head-on collision there the other day at the Doway Martyrs End, which not only caused a risky life, but it also stopped traffic for about 3 or 4 hours whilst the cars were stranded there waiting to get moved out of the way. So, a bit of a nightmare as well, obviously.
When you say about the cars at school time, but parking on the main pavement as well, and the guy comes down to Giroldi, he doesn't put a ticket out. They all get away with it.
Okay, yeah, so...
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
It's still dangerous.
Yeah, so obviously there's other cars there at that busy time, whether it's the school run or the traffic run, mainly the school run, that are parking out of the bays that are obviously causing a higher risk of collision and disturbance to residents in the local area.
Okay. I think we're just coming to the end of your... You've still got a bit of time left if there's any last minute points. But we're going to ask some questions now anyway, so you'll get the opportunity. So you won't lose the chance to make your point. Okay? Alright, brilliant. Thank you for taking the time. I know sometimes it's not easy to come into a strange room with strange people and articulate your points. So I'd just like to thank you, and for the amount of residents you've got here as well, which is good to see, but also supported by your ward councillor. So a couple of questions from me. Doway Martyrs School, I mean, I know the road really, really well. I used to be the postie down there back in the mid-80s.
Okay.
So I don't think there's anybody there that remembers that long ago. But I do know the road quite well in terms of that. So what the impact of Downey Martyrs School? I mean, one of your resident colleagues said there about it's at school times. Is it more prevalent at school drop-off and pick-up time?
Yeah, I think so. It is.
Yeah, I'm at work until 4:30, 5 o'clock, but I know for a fact that from about 2:30, traffic gets heavy on Long Lane, therefore the cut-through starts from about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Yeah. And obviously the school run into Dalway Martyrs is a nightmare as well, but there's Glebe round the corner, I'm sure. Members of the public are using it to cut through to Glebe and other schools in the area.
And Downey Martyrs will probably have a bit more vehicle traffic than most schools because it has a wider catchment area. Not only that, they've got buses which take them. There's got buses out the front, so there's no excuse for them to take the cars. So they park on Paddock Road as well. Yeah. They park on Edinburgh Drive on the curve. They park in front of the people's drive as well. Yeah. They park on the curves on the top, and the traffic warden comes in. Nothing's been done. Okay. But you've got 4 or 5 buses, I think about 6, 7 or maybe 10 buses on that main road and taking children to the destination. But I don't know why you need to have people coming into Edinburgh Drive to pick the children up either. Yeah. So there needs to be some sort of restriction on that road. Okay, well we captured that point, because I think at the end of the day we all want the same thing. Yeah. Which is really important. And what was the other point I had? You said that there was an incident where there was a fatality on Glebe Avenue. That was on. You know about that one. That was on Glebe. Yeah, I mean to be honest with you, that's the reason. I mean, if it's a slip road, people are coming fast into that road, cut through. And you made the point there around that on the slip road, then they've got black bags over that, which we need to take away and understand why that is. Yeah, it's been sitting there for nearly a month. Nothing's been taken off. Yeah, we need to understand why that is and resolve. Outside of this process, we need to just get that.
When I'm doing all the road work, they relabelled the pavement on the road. It looks like they sort of pretty ready to use, but not.
Okay, we'll take that away and look at it.
That's like a possibility.
Yeah. And you mentioned there was a head-on collision recently. Yes, there was. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Not long.
Yeah, that was outside our house, literally a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we heard the smash.
It's a big car,
literally head-on.
Yeah.
4 hours of carnage out there. Cars wouldn't give in and turn around. They come up onto the pavement on the side of the road to try and come through. Unfortunately, it was just after school time. If it was right at school time, it would have been even worse. It was bad enough as it was.
This is a lot of aggression. There's a lot of aggression people are driving. When they're driving on the curb, they don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've actually had to go on the curb because a big car 4x4 was coming, and he was swearing at me. I said, I'm sorry, it's only a tiny curb because the cars are parked on the left side, on the right side. So how am I supposed to get my car in there? So that was a bit of a problem. Then you go home frustrated.
So that's a massive problem where they park over our drive. They also come right onto our drive.
That's right.
As well, to turn round. Really? So sometimes we can't even get out. And you ask them to move and they're rude.
They're very rude.
Okay, the only point about taking questions from the microphones, because people at home can hear what's being said. Nobody can hear what you're saying from the back.
I need to repeat anything.
Yeah, we'll repeat it.
We'll capture it. Don't worry. So. I'll try my best. Okay, David, have you got any questions for the petitioners?
No, I think you made a very good point. I mean, I think the key point that we were trying to get across is this a school-related thing to some extent? And clearly from what you said, your testimony shows that actually it's particularly at peak times to do with the school. You mentioned bus services, that the council is doing a lot of work with TfL to try and actually improve the quality of those bus services, because as Councillor Tuckwell said, obviously it's a faith school, so therefore the catchment area is very large. So people do come from far and wide, and you might fairly say, well, why do they come by car? Why can't they come on the bus? That's a reasonable question, but it's down to parental choice to some extent, isn't it? So we can't force them to that extent. In the terms of the incident that happened on Glebe, I am aware of that because every time there's a fatality, we meet with the police and we investigate it, and I can't discuss the details of that in detail because of the nature of what it was, but I do know it involved, I believe, an elderly pedestrian crossing the road at the corner there.
That's of a neighbour.
Yeah, and very, very sad, and tragically they died as a consequence of that. So, but we do know the circumstances of that. In terms of the accident history of Edinburgh Drive, it's relatively modest. I mean, you'll say it's bad because you experienced it bad. In terms of the police accident data, it's relatively modest, which is positive news, but clearly that doesn't tell the whole story. There's another story about near misses and bad behaviour and the discipline of some of the drivers, which you've talked about. Anyway, we'll carry on.
Okay, I think that's really useful, and I think just to say thank you for your input, and thank you for everybody else's input as well. But we do have a ward councillor in the audience, who I'm now going to invite to take the chair, so we can do some musical chairs here and swap over. And I'll invite Councillor Lavery to take a seat. Councillor Lavery used to sit in this chair actually previously, so I don't think I need to explain the traffic light system to him because he knows this process much better than I do actually. So your 3 minutes, Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckwell. Edinburgh Drive this is the second set of petitions on this road in a relatively short space of time. I know the last traffic surveys did suggest the vast majority of drivers were driving within the speed limit. It suffers from two different sets of problems. Clearly, Dowie Martyr School is a contributing factor. Despite the 9 buses they bring up, it is clear that it is a factor. So one of the things I would ask that is looked at is whether, given that there's 20-mile-an-hour limit just gone in Glebe Avenue and on the Glebe Estate, actually whether we look at Edinburgh Drive as well, because it is clearly a school, and the school is right on the corner, right on a bend. So this road's got 2 bends in it. I know you know it well. I know it well. It's got 2 bends in it, which makes life more difficult. The other thing that is happening, and it is clearly happening, is that traffic through Ickenham itself is very busy, not aided by when Breakspear Road is closed or Harbour Road is closed, and it just becomes gridlocked. And an increasing number of people, and I see it as I drive through there, swing right into Edinburgh Drive and then either down onto Glebe Estate, or some of them are just doing it to come round and come back out further down the road. So one of the suggestions I would ask that is looked at is, do we have a no right turn from the high road into Edinburgh Drive at certain times of the day? Rush hour either end would be the obvious, and we've got one of those further up in Ickenham in Highfield Drive to stop that sort of cut through. It's clearly being used to cut through, and this road really isn't suitable for cut through traffic. So I think those things may well assist us. I know the issue with speed tables, and that is whoever's house they're outside is likely to come up with an objection, and also they do increase noise without a doubt, because heavy lorries going over them will just whack over them, as will the skip lorries and everything else. So they're one part of a puzzle, but they do create their own issues. The problem with a one-way road, I know, is that it can increase traffic speeds, but I do wonder whether having no turn off the main road might actually take down the volume of traffic that uses this road, together with a school street, because it's 20 miles an hour. I think I am within time, just.
I think you practiced that. Okay, now thank you, Councillor Lavery, for your insights, and we will we'll have some debate between us in a second, but a couple of questions for me. One is obviously enforcing speeding isn't a council function. It's purely down to the Metropolitan Police. Just wondering if you've had any conversations with your Safer Neighbourhood team on what they're doing to support enforcement of speeding vehicles, if that was the case.
We do have conversations, but I mean the problem is their resourcing and ability to do speed checks is not enormous. And I've got to be honest, if they pick a road in Ickenham, they will tend to find their way to Swakeleys Road, because we have a 30 to 40 mile an hour speed limit problem on that road. So they will tend to find their way there more often than not.
Okay. David, any questions for Councillor Lavery?
Oh no, I think you've covered it very well actually. I mean, you mentioned the possibility of a part-time band turn. For those people who don't realise that yes, that has been done elsewhere. We'd have to do a consultation, so we wouldn't impose these things without asking the views of residents concerned. There'd be a traffic order behind it, and one of the things is you can actually camera enforce it, so it can actually, it's one of the few things that the council can do in terms of what are called moving traffic contraventions. We can't enforce speed, but we can enforce some against some banned movements.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 20 mile per hour for the road, very good idea. I think the speed bumps and speed tables, be careful what you wish for, I think is the message we often say. Funny enough, I was reading an old report from 50 years ago earlier on today which talked about the impact of speed bumps on milk floats, if anyone remembers those. Nowadays it's skip lorries that go up and down the roads, and I think, you know, it's worth knowing that we have had cases where we've had petitions asking for them to be taken out. So be careful what you wish for, but you want a solution to the problems, we get that. So I think let's take that away, and thank you very much for your input.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Lavery. Okay, right, where do we take this one? So first and foremost, thank you to everybody for your input this evening, and thank you to Councillor Lavery for your insights. The report, which you will have seen, has 3 recommendations attached to it, which is the first recommendation is for me to meet with the petitioners, which we've done. The second point is to note the results of the previous traffic survey, which was sort of January, February of last year. So we've noted those and they're included in the report. And the third recommendation in all cases is we would need to commission a further 24/7 speed test so that we can understand the scale of the problem and see if there's been any change between sort of last year and this year. And sometimes, you know, if there's a bigger volume of traffic, then there can be a material change in the speed of vehicles. What I wasn't aware of was that, given that there's a school, we really should be having a 20 mile an hour zone around the school. In most schools in Hillingdon we do have 20 mile an hour zones, and I think that's something we would need to consider. I don't know if we need to add it to one of the recommendations or if we could take that offline. Yeah? And we can add it to our work stream list, can't we?
Maybe we can something along the lines of further studies as instructed by Cabinet Member into the possibilities of band turn enforcement and speed limit changes. So
I was going to come to
those
that.
Could be added as sort of in relation
to the no right turn, which has worked really well in other parts of Hillingdon. The only drawback to that is it would be a no right turn for residents as well.
And also there's another road in
the paddock, yeah. Are you then forcing people to sort of like nip down the paddock as well? But that's something we can look at and model, and we'd come back through the ward councillors with what our findings are on that study. But it's another option to try and reduce the volume of traffic going into Edinburgh Drive. We can also even look at sort of working closer with the school as well. So we have this issue with a lot of schools across Hillingdon where we have challenging behaviours from parents dropping off children at schools, and it's not just Darry Martyrs, it's pretty much every school, 100 plus schools that we have in Hillingdon, and we do have an initiative called School Streets. Now, whether or not Edinburgh Drive would be a candidate for that, but we can certainly ask David's team to look at that as well. And we work very, very closely with the schools on initiatives that they can put in place to, you know, play their part in, you know, looking after their neighbours, which is you guys. You know, you are their neighbours, and we want schools to take some responsibility for that. It's normally primary schools that we have the issue in. It's not so much secondary schools, but we know Darry Martyrs is fairly unique in its positioning, and also its type of student that it attracts as well. So I think all in all we can go with those 3 recommendations plus a 4th one to consider a 20 mile an hour zone. Yeah, we would there are a range of issues that we can consider. We can consider speed bumps, we can consider chicanes, we can consider all kinds of different things. What we need to do is understand what the traffic profile is in the first place. Did you want to come in there?
I was going to say there's one other thing that to pick up on what Luther said in the... You said that the civil enforcement officers, what you used to call traffic wardens in the old days, are not ticketing where you feel they should be because people are parking badly. That's something we'll take away, and we'll have a word with the enforcement contractor, because clearly if people are parking badly I mean, sometimes it's a cat and mouse thing. Sometimes the person comes in their green jacket to do some enforcement, and somebody sees them and drives off at speed. But if people are parking there, and perhaps going off to pick their children up, and it's causing an obstruction, that's something we need to look at. So thank you for raising that point, and I'll take that away personally.
Yep. Okay, so there's a range of options there that we can look at to improve the situation for Edinburgh Drive and the paddock. You know, we don't want to be displacing the problem from Edinburgh Drive into the paddock, otherwise I'll have a petition with the paddock here in a few months' time. So wouldn't want to be doing that either. We want to be trying to just joining up the whole area that's around Dairy Martyrs, working with Dairy Martyrs as well, to ensure that we can, you know, give you an environment that's safe for the residents of Edinburgh Drive. So we'll go with those recommendations, Naveed. Yeah. So what we do now, this is the fun part of the evening, where residents get to interact with the petitioners. Is we get to choose where we're going to put our traffic survey monitors, because they have to be fixed to something, and obviously we don't want them too close to the junction because people are slowing down when they get to the junction. So we've got a map here of Edinburgh Drive, and if
Are you talking about putting the cables back down?
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations. So if you'd like to somebody like to quickly come up and just give us an indication. Okay, so we've now got a position for where the traffic surveys, because they have to be bolted to lampposts, otherwise they go missing. We've got that agreed now. We'll get those down.
10 days.
10 days.
Yeah.
And not. No, we don't do it in school holidays. So we've got a school holiday coming up, haven't we?
When one of the roads is shut.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've done the business tonight. All I would say is to thank you to Edinburgh Drive for coming out in such big numbers as well. It just demonstrates how the feelings are for this particular issue, and I can give you an assurance that we will take this very seriously, and we will work through your ward councillors. This won't be done in isolation. We'll obviously give as much information back to your ward councillors so they can pass on that information to you guys. Well, I'm afraid school allocation policy doesn't sit as part of this petition hearing, so yeah. But
But it's just really important.
no.
That's why I'm saying that. That's why the traffic. You've got other people coming into the school.
Yeah.
Places where people local aren't going to the local
Okay.
school.
All right. But thank you. Noted. But thank you very much for your time, everybody, this evening, and a safe journey home. Okay, so we'll just let the good folk of Edinburgh Drive exit the room. Okay, thank you. So we can now go on to agenda item 5, which is Cornwall Road, and I take it you're Miss Sharda?
Yes, correct.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for coming in this evening. Apologies that we're a little bit behind time, but as you can see, we had quite a gathering from Edinburgh Drive, and it was important that we took their points, as it will be important to take on your points as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So in terms of how this works now, so you've already found your seat, so that's good. The way this works now is you have 5 minutes to put your point forward in relation to the petition, which is for traffic calming measures in Cornwall Road. The traffic light system here is 4 minutes on green. You'll have 1 minute on amber, and then when you get to the 5th minute, it'll go to red, and I'll bring you to a very, very polite stop, and that's part of our constitutional process. But then there'll be some questions afterwards, and if you have missed anything, then you'll have the opportunity to just build that into the way you answer the questions. Little tip for you there. But David and I will both ask you questions as we go, because we've already done some research. You might have seen the report as well, which came out, so that's something we'll all work from that same report. So relax, take your time. When you press the button on the microphone in front of you there,
big white button.
If you want to maybe bring it a bit closer to you as well, and what that enables then is people at home watching on YouTube, because you are on YouTube as well, they'll be able to hear what you hear.
Not Instagram, don't worry.
What you have to say. So when you're ready, if you press the button, Naveed will start the clock.
Great. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I am here to talk about Cornwall Road in Ruislip Manor, and to seek, I guess, your thoughts and your approval on traffic calming measures. So as part of the petition, I detailed 5 key points regarding Cornwall Road. So the first point is in relation to high-speed traffic. I work from home 3 days a week. I have noted even during kind of early morning rush hour from 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. cars travelling at terrifying speeds down Cornwall Road, to the point where if I am in a vehicle outside of my house, I can feel my vehicle physically shake from the movement and the sheer speed that cars are travelling at. Unfortunately, it's not limited to rush hour. Cornwall Road is a cut through to join the A40 onto Polish War Memorial, hence why it's a popular choice of route. But it's also during the day. There are people obviously out and about, keen to get to places much faster, and have, through Google Maps, unfortunately, probably discovered Cornwall Road as a cut through. I can hear the cars going at high speeds in my home, and it's gotten progressively worse. It's now throughout the entire day, and it's also through the evenings. Now, this issue, I believe, I moved into Cornwall Road last year, but I believe this issue was raised a couple of years ago, or a number of years ago, and as a result, the council introduced traffic islands, and they also introduced a kind of like a friendly speed notifier. It's a sign down the other end of Cornwall Road which should flash or tell you what speed you're travelling at. Unfortunately, that hasn't solved the issue. Another thing I wanted to highlight was blind bends. So I actually live on a bend in Cornwall Road. As a result of that, people come off of the roundabout from Victoria Road and they speed down the road, not realising that the road begins to bend. On a number of occasions, I have heard people hooting their cars, getting out of their cars, shouting unpleasant obscenities towards each other as a result of saying, "Why didn't you stop?" or "Watch where you're going." And there's no notification on the road that there is a bend coming up, so you've just got people going at high speeds. Another unfortunate result of speeding on Cornwall Road is, although we have traffic islands, potentially I think 4 or 5 across the road, there are moments when I am returning from work, I'm reversing into my driveway, I see cars not even slowing down, they drive on the wrong side of the road to go around the traffic island to then continue driving on the left-hand side. It's terrifying. It's a cause for concern for my neighbours, because obviously when you are reversing out of your driveway, your predominant concern is the road that you are reversing into. You do not expect cars to be driving on the wrong side of the road. It's also dangerous for pedestrians. If I'm crossing the road at night, there are times when I'm coming back from work and I start crossing and I physically run back to where I was crossing from, because people do not stop and they are travelling at such fast speeds that I'm concerned about protecting myself. So it's extremely difficult, especially on that bend. and I can't even say it's limited to like a certain time of day. Unfortunately, it's all day long. This issue, I think, has been bubbling for a while in terms of the road. I started the petition through a local WhatsApp group, and I spoke to a few neighbours when they were passing my home. They are all concerned. A lot of my neighbours have children. It's a concern when you're getting, if you parked on the road and you're loading items into your vehicle, if you're loading your shopping or you're getting your children out, the speeds that cars travel down mean that you can't even comfortably open your door to exit your vehicle. And it's quite aggressive people, clearly not residents or people who live on the surrounding roads, but it's people who feel entitled, a sense of entitlement to hustle their way down the road at extreme speeds.
You were just in time, so that's well done. Okay, so thank you for sharing your thoughts. Cornwall Road, I think, is well known to all of us, actually. David's going to talk a little bit about what's gone on previously in Cornwall Road, which you have referenced. Okay, so this is something which is kind of linked to the rush hour, but you're saying it's also during the day as well, and I guess that's relevant because Cornwall Road is such a major...
It is. It's a cut-through road.
Yeah.
If you go down to the end of Cornwall Road, you turn right, you can join West End Road and make your way onto the motorway.
Well, pretty much it's the only way down to the A40. Well, and there's other ways to the A40, but it's probably the most convenient way for people coming from that top end of Ruislip Manor there. But during the day, bend notification, we'll pick that up, see whether there's anything on that. That's something that you mentioned. David's going to talk a little bit about traffic islands. But as I asked one of the previous items, have you had any conversations with the local police team for Ruislip Manor?
The SNT.
Yeah, the Safer Neighbourhood
Oh, yes.
team,
So they made an appearance at kind of the top of Cornwall Road. I think it was the month before last, potentially in February. They were there to talk to the community. I raised the concern to them. Yeah. It was like a casual conversation. It was literally on where the roundabout is from Cornwall Road. So we probably need to maybe formalise that a bit. Okay. I don't know if you was here for the last item, but speeding enforcement is solely the responsibility of the police. I noted that on the report. So we don't have any influence over that at all. Not yet, anyway. Maybe the evolution may change at some point, but as it stands at the moment, it's only the police that can enforce. We can take measures to mitigate, speeding, but the root causes come down to driver behaviour as well. So which we need to try, and we're doing some work on that as well, in improving driver behaviour standards. So the ask really then is for. I've got 3 recommendations here. One is to meet your good self, which we've done. We will do another traffic survey. For Cornwall. I know it is a long road, so we probably have to do a fair amount of the tubes that we put down. So that gives us a feel what the actual traffic profile is, what time of day, what type of traffic, and how fast it's going, which gives us all of that information. Now we'll do that for 24/7 for a 10-day period. Wonderful. Not in school holidays. Yes, we tried. Well, we definitely don't do it in school holidays because we know traffic diminishes. I don't know if we've ever done. We must have done one here before, at some point. Yes.
I mean, yes. You mentioned the fact that there are some traffic islands there, and yes, there's pictures of some of them there. And I remember them going in September 2015. So they've been there 10 years roughly, because there was a petition process at the time, and that was considered as a partial solution, and they've been in. And here we are again today. 10 years is a long time, so any surveys that were done at that time are way out of date. So I think it's important that we, as Councillor Tuckwell said, we would do some fresh surveys, and we will in a few minutes invite you to suggest where you think those should be. A couple of questions from me really. Is it predominantly both ways, or is it more one way than the other? Because obviously the reason I say that is because Cornwall Road is an obvious cut through from as far away as Eastcote. You can come through Chelston Approach the other side, Cornwall Road down, and that's away from Eastcote to get to the A40. but I don't know whether it goes the other way as much. I mean, the survey will show, but I'm curious to know whether you think it's more in one direction than the other, or it's equal.
I feel like it's more coming from Cornwall Road and then getting onto Torrington to join West End Road. That's my view. Whether that's correct or not,
the survey will show, but it's useful for because having you here tonight is excellent. You mentioned the bend, and I think Councillor Tuckwell's already alluded to that. That we'll look into that. Those signs, the electronic signs, you can get a version of that that's got a bend sign on it. So as people approach it, it flashes up a bend sign. There are one or two around the borough, so we could even consider that. We'd have to be sensitive to the fact that it has to go outside somebody's house, so somebody might think that they're having an all-night disco. But anyway, that's something we can look at. And I think that's it from me.
Yeah, thank you, David. I mean, I'm just looking at the supporting information you put in, which was, you talked very eloquently around high-speed traffic, and we're sensitive to that, and we need to make sure that we understand what is the profile for this particular road in either direction, what time of day, what type of traffic, and how fast it's going as well. So we'll get that information, and we'll certainly make sure that's shared with you when we get that. The other one you talked about was noise pollution. Well, I think that goes, I mean, if you get sort of like vehicles with noisy exhausts and things like that tend to be quite more prevalent these days. But even just, again, you've also talked about when there's altercations and people are bibbing their horns and things like that as well. So if we can deal with the speeding, then that should flow through to any of those. Blind bends, David has just talked about, and we might be able to look at something there. We can even maybe do something with road markings as well. Then you've raised a point there around, a camera opportunity for the council to raise revenue. Well, unfortunately, cameras are TfL, and they keep all the money.
I read the report.
Yeah. They keep all the money. They're not very good at sharing. But then they put in the equipment as well, and then there's a particular process which David might be able to just talk through. It's quite a technical process to go through to put in speed cameras, but that's solely a decision for TfL, although they do talk to us about certain things as well. And again, just looking through here. So there's 3 recommendations. First one is to meet with your good self, so it's a nice pleasure to meet you, certainly to hear your experiences, and for someone who's quite new to the road as well, so that's quite good, because it's a fresh pair of eyes as I see it, that can sort of articulate what the sort of experience is, because some people might think, it's just always been like that, and they kind of live with it, but if you're sharing your experiences, then that's good for us to have that knowledge. We've talked about the speed surveys, and as David has said, we'll invite you to just sort of indicate where you think we can position those. We are kind of limited because we have to bolt them to a lamppost or something, but we've got the lampposts indicated on the map here, and we'll do that, and that will be for a 10-day period for 24/7. And then the other one, as I just said, is to advise that speed cameras is not within the council's remit yet, but who knows, there could be some changes to the way that local government and TfL and the GLA operate. So, but as it stands at the moment, we have no jurisdiction over speed cameras, and certainly no revenue that comes with it. So I think that's probably where we would need to leave it for now, but unless you have any further questions.
Are there any other measures, I guess, that are feasible from both the kind of a budget perspective to be able to implement to?
Yeah, well, what we'll look at is we'll look at what the traffic profile is telling us. Is there a major problem from a factual perspective using the surveys? When we got that information, then we can look at other measures, and there are other engineering measures. As we've talked about, I don't know if you heard the last item, but speed bumps, there seems to be an appetite for speed bumps, but certainly not for the people that be living next to them, because they'll be putting in petitions to have them removed, and we've had a couple of those as well. They do solve a problem in one sense and create another problem in another sense, and we just got to get that balance right. But that isn't to say that isn't an option. It's just something for us to consider when we have an understanding of what how it's behaving, how it's behaving. So Torrington Road. So I think that's Cornwall Road, rather. what I'm saying. I think that is pretty much where we are at this stage. Have you got any further questions?
Not as of now, no, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, on that basis then, Naveed, we'll go with those 3 recommendations. And again, I'd just like to thank you for sharing your thoughts this evening and taking a bit of time out to come and sit in a big room with some people you've never met before and share all your thoughts, which can be a bit daunting, but it's really good to hear what you had to say on behalf of your neighbours as well. So that's good. Okay. Right. I think that's probably it then for Cornwall Road. On that note, I will say thank you to everybody who's been watching on the YouTube channel. Hope you've enjoyed the evening. And we will close down proceedings now. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to come and... Yes, you're offline now. So